Hello and welcome. Today we're joined by Shireen and we are going to be talking about menopause and relationships. I've known Shireen for quite a while now, actually. Well, it feels like I've known her forever, but she's a absolutely wonderful, wonderful person. I love her to bits. She is totally inspiring to me, but I'm going to let her introduce herself. Shireen, welcome and thank you for joining the podcast.
No, thank you for having me, Meera. That's quite some introduction.
It's true though. It's so true. If I need motivation, I know our whole team, our whole community is
Mm.
amazing, but yeah, you're definitely one of the most consistent and persistent people that I've met. But Shirin, please introduce yourself to our listeners. Let them know a little bit about you.
Okay, so I'm Shireen Noor, and I'm a qualified and accredited psychotherapist. So I have a private practice which is called Flourish with Therapy, and the practice is based in Northwood, Rickmansworth, and Central London. So I also see clients by Zoom, in person, or by phone calls. I'm also a member of the United Kingdom Council of Psychotherapy. So my main sort of interests lie in trauma, and especially around transgenerational trauma, around attachment issues that I work quite a lot with, relationships, loss, grief, bereavement, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, sort of identity crisis. And a lot of the work around that I do is around South Asians. I mean, it's just as my practice has evolved, I've been working quite a bit with South Asians and couples. I'm also a certified couples counselor. I work with families and also a lot of sort of, young South Asians who sort of are trying to sort of navigate between the British culture and the Asian culture and the traditions and sort of finding their own identity within this juxtaposition of these two places. And yeah, very briefly, that's me.
There's a whole heap of stuff there. My goodness, it's like it's quite amazing, and I think a couple of things. A lot of what you've said resonated, and it's so much needed, isn't it? But I think the couple of things that you said which was interesting because it resonates with me is that you're now working quite a lot with the South Asian community and people within the South Asian community, and I think that's something that it's sort of happened, hasn't it? Sort of, it's kind of just happened and evolved, and that's the same thing that's happened to me with the menopause. I had no kind of fixed or set agenda about who I'm helping or supporting because I'll do it for everybody. But
Yeah.
actually, I think that again, that kind of representation, that being able to go to somebody who perhaps would be able to understand where you're coming from. Your culture, your background seems to be something that's really important to all of us at the moment.
Hmm.
Um, and the other thing that was all the things that you said that you support and work with, all those symptoms of conditions, the symptoms, they all seem to be symptoms of menopause. So they,
Yeah.
and in particular, seem to be heightened in menopause. We seem to be because of that shift and change in hormones,
Hmm.
whether that's progesterone, estrogen, testosterone.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, in particular, estrogen, but for
Hmm.
some of us, progesterone and testosterone, all of those things, anxiety, mood swings, low mood, low self-esteem, depression, um, relationships,
Hmm.
all of that seems to be heightened at this time, when women are going through perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. um, I wonder whether, have you is that something that you're seeing more of? Is that something that you've kind of within relationships and counseling that you're doing? Is that something that ever comes to the forefront or has been, you've been aware of?
I think it does come up when I see couples that it might just be mentioned that, oh, I'm going through menopause, or I've just started going through menopause, or I've just hit that age when I've started seeing these changes. And you see, it's interesting you say about these symptoms that I just mentioned, and I was just when you invited me to the talk, and I was thinking about menopause, and I was thinking like, is it actually is it menopause? Because we give a name menopause, right? And it's actually this whole range of symptoms, like you said, like the anxiety, the the depression, the low moods, the loss of libido, and fatigue and some all these things. But and I was thinking it's actually these symptoms that actually impact the relationships, right? Menopause, you can say, is a stage of life, right? It's like when women hit puberty, or when they hit, when they start their period. It's a stage of life when the body starts preparing for fertility and childbirth, and all of that. And then comes a time when you hit menopause, and but the symptoms are the ones that actually create has this impact on the relationships. It's about
Yeah.
how we already relate to people in a certain way, but that has an impact on how we relate to the people around us. How
Yeah.
what it means to us. Like all
Yeah.
these environmental factors that also
Yeah.
come into play.
I think, what's also interesting, Sharon, is that, and I know we've talked about this before on some of the talks that we've done together,
Mm,
is that, as an example, when somebody's going through, if a girl is going through puberty and she's getting her periods, it's almost all right. I know within the South Asian community, and quite a bit of the South Asian community, things that are not women's health is still not talked about. It's not discussed. It's taboo. But even when there is that conversation, everyone will go, "Oh, she's going through a period, so she's feeling a bit up and down at the
yeah.
moment. Oh, she's pregnant. Oh, yeah, no, she's going to be a bit teary." And she's, I did it myself just recently. Explained to my son-in-law that, in a couple of weeks' time, Aneka my daughter, she might start to go on a low because those
Mm,
hormones are all shifting. So she might get more tearful, and she might be.
mm,
But no one ever says that about menopause. No one ever says to your partner, your son, your daughter, your husband, whatever, your mother, whoever, that actually, no, you know what? She's going through menopause. Maybe this is something that's having an impact on how she's responding to things, whether she's crying 1 minute and then she's happy the next minute. But
mm.
there just isn't that education or information, is
No, there
there?
isn't. It's one of these things that is kept very much. I mean, I think women's stages, I won't even call them, they're not problems, they're not issues. They're basically something, it's a natural process. It's what your body does, right? And as women, preparation for motherhood, preparation, this the periods and hormone fluctuation. Yes, men go through something, but they go through something entirely different than women. Okay, but this thing, women's things are kept very silent. You would say, like, menopause is not spoken about. It's like a bit of a taboo topic or something to be ashamed of. And I think, I mean, the work that you're doing is tremendous, bringing it out
Thank you.
there in the open. And you recently told me you even went to Parliament for it to be
Yes.
actually, brought up that in the workplace. And it's good that in workplace as well, like there's a lot of education going on that is there. But I feel
Yeah.
like, you need to talk about these things with your children, because you need to make them aware, not just your daughters, but I think even your sons. Like my kids, my boys, I tell them, "Oh, I'm going through menopause," and they know it, and they've seen me going through the low and the high of it, right, and how to manage it. And my daughter, I'm always, because I know that they will have their partners, and my daughter will go through it, and they need to know this. But I can see the change happening. I see people talking more about it, and in the
Yeah.
Asian community as well, and mentioning it. And hopefully soon they will be more curious and increase the knowledge. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
the generation is coming that is now opening up more to it.
I think they're a bit more educated, and they will be a bit more educated than we were for
Mm,
sure.
mm,
And I think, the thing that, again, Harry's been quite open about talking about our relationship,
mm,
but it's not just your relationship with your partner. And actually, what surprised me about about Harry's conversation, and he'd never said this to me, we'd never had that conversation apart from when we actually had it for the first time on Instagram, and then we did a podcast. But I actually didn't realize the impact my behavior was having on him, and on my children, and on my workplace, and with my mum, and with my siblings. Um, every single relationship I was and friends,
mm-hmm,
my menopause journey was having a quite a dramatic impact on those relationships, and I don't think I even recognized it. Do
mm,
you? I mean, have you experienced the same, or have you found that other people might be
mm,
going through similar things, or is that
mm.
something that would be I suppose what I'm saying is that something that you would expect as part of that because of the symptoms and what we're going through? Is that
Mm.
kind of an inevitable, like things are going to change because things are changing within you?
Mm. Well, I think it would change because, like, it's like, because with menopause, what you find is it's the bodily sensations, right? It's the hot flushes, it's whatever, however, what other symptoms you suffer. But along with that comes the mental concerns as well. The mental health, which is the anxiety, getting heart palpitations, which is a bodily symptom, but you can get anxious about it, like fear, what's going on, the low moods, the depression, right? Now, if you look at these, when somebody's not going through menopause, it still has an effect on their relationships, right? For example, you mentioned friends. If somebody is a very social person, if they are the soul of the party, then all of a sudden they just sort of go into themselves. People start isolating themselves, right? They sort of create this wall around them, and it does affect the relationship, because then you're like, your friends are like, what's going on with this person, what's going on with her, have we said something, have we done something, or maybe. And people, because you see, it's like somebody doesn't know what's going on with you till you tell them. They can take a meaning out which is their meaning, not your meaning, or not, they don't know what's going on with your life, right? And that is where it's important to maybe if you have a friend, a good friend that you can speak to, maybe say that, look, this is what is going on with me at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Do you feel
it's
that
important. Mm.
sorry, I was just going to say, do you feel that that is something that's an important step to take? Is that something, I mean, what would you sort of suggest? Well, I suppose there's two things here, Sharon. If you
Mm.
are somebody, there's two aspects. One is if you are in a relationship with somebody, whatever that may, relationship with me, daughter, son,
Mm.
husband, your husband or the wife or or employer, employee, whatever. If you're that person watching or seeing or observing at the other end of this person's behavior changing, and you're the person watching that,
Mm.
what would you advise? So that's the first one. What would you advise that person to do?
Mm.
And I suppose the second one is if you are the person going through it,
Mm.
what would you recommend?
Mm.
So I suppose if we could do the first one, whereas, so for
Yeah.
example, if it was Harry or anybody, your other half or your employer, if you're seeing a person change before your eyes,
Mm.
kind of what is the, how do you help them? What do you do?
Mm. You see, it's different. It's different with different people, right? You have a different kind of relationship with your friends. You might be a different person when you're at work. You're a different person when you are with your partner, right? All these, and with your
Yes.
children. Let's take, I don't know. Let's take, for example, a workplace. And I feel that, you know, in a workplace, if you have a good manager or if you have a
Yeah.
good work colleague, and they see you like, okay, she's not her usual self.
Yes.
One day you're having a bad day, 2 days you're having a bad day, but this is continuing. And if you do see a colleague or who is, who and then and you see some change in them, maybe just approach them very gently and
Yeah.
just say, okay, are you okay? Or just say, I'm here if you want to have a chat or talk to me. Just somebody knowing that there is someone there is so important, so significant, because somebody just
Yeah.
saying, yes, I'm here for you. Because
Yeah.
you're not saying I'm here for you, you're just saying, oh, or just saying, oh, let's go for a coffee. Let's go and have
Yeah.
lunch together.
Yeah.
It's as
So
simple as
not
that.
being kind of that.
Obviously, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being in the background, sort of, because actually, quite often you could get quite defensive. What
yeah,
do you mean? There's something wrong with
yeah,
me? Oh, there's nothing wrong with
exactly.
me. It's you. And
Yeah.
you're already in that state. So yeah,
You're
you're
already
right.
irritable. You're already
Yes.
like a bit sort of, what's going on with me? I'm confused. I'm not the same
Yeah.
person. But somebody just saying, oh, let's just go and have a coffee, or let's
Yeah.
meet for lunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just,
That's a really nice thing, and I
mm,
think in hindsight for me, I think it would have been lovely if I would have, and also that not, don't get offended when the person says no. Just keep sort of nudging away at it, because
yeah,
I do remember, I recall for me, I was like, no, I don't want to go out for a coffee.
yeah, mm,
That was the last thing I could think about,
yeah,
going out and meeting someone, because I wanted to be inside in my own little shell. And
mm,
again, had gone from this kind of person that was out all the time to really struggling to go out to meet people. It was like, oh, really didn't want to go.
yeah,
But actually, there were some friends that actually just sort of gently persisted,
Yeah.
and they were like, and I would sort of say, oh no, it's okay, no, I don't really fancy it. Why don't you come over? Thinking, oh, hopefully they're going to say no. And
Yeah.
they were like, yeah, no, I'll come over. And I was like, oh, okay, okay. And they ended up coming over, and actually initially the conversation was, I was a little bit, but then a little bit sort of awkward with it all, but then I just settled into it, and suddenly I realized I
Mm-hmm.
actually enjoyed that person's
Mm-hmm.
company. So it was that whole thing of, just keep gently, as you said, nudging away. I think that's a really lovely bit
Mm-hmm.
of advice, actually.
Mm-hmm. But I think
And if, yeah, go on.
one thing I was
Sorry.
thinking is, the thing is, when you start talking to other women, you realize that they actually might be going through a similar thing.
Yeah,
And I think one of the things is, part of your program, the network of support, the support of women around you. And I was thinking that is so essential at any given time. It's important, but this time because they're like-minded women who are in not exactly the same position, but going through something similar.
yeah,
And that is you. I think this is the time to sort of find
yeah,
that support network around you and
yeah,
build that.
yeah. And there is a lot of support out there. It's just, it's not quite often, you are not looking for it,
Hmm.
and so you don't know where to find it. But just in case anybody does need any support information, if you go to our website, if you go to my website meerabhogal.com, you'll find that there are free resources there. There's signposting there to different organizations, but also, as Shireen was mentioning, we run a program that's a paid program that you can be part of to sort of help change the trajectory, really. But there are there's free stuff we do. So we do menopause coffee mornings, and I do lots of talks and events, and there's Instagrams and stuff. So there's a lot of support if anybody does need it. If you were if you're a if you're a person, if you're the woman going through it, I know you've said kind of reaching out, you've just said that, reaching out for somebody or a community. Once you find those people, you suddenly realize actually it's okay. Um, but I've come across in speaking to the women, because I do speak to a lot of women who just need a vent, just need to speak. And actually quite often they just need to say it to somebody. They don't want me to do anything with it.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
just kind of dump that
Hmm.
information and plant it with me. And at that point, I'm going, I'm not Shireen. I need Shireen. Where are you? Because
Hmm.
I'm not qualified to deal with this. But actually, they don't want any of that. They
Hmm.
literally just want to say, this is how I'm feeling. It's really bad. And as soon as you start to kind of suggest, oh, actually, there's lots of blah blah blah, and then they're like, no, 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 I don't want to do any of that. I can't because I can't talk about it with my family. I can't do. What would you say to those women? How would you? Is there anything that you can help them to kind of help them process it, deal with it, seek help?
See, one of the things that came to my mind was if you do need an outlet or somebody that you just want to speak to, find a therapist. Even if you don't see somebody for like, you don't need like, a full, long term therapy. You basically need something like you said, like, look, I just want to get it out. I just want to find that safe place where I
Yeah,
feel safe, where I feel comfortable, somebody who I know I can feel safe with, and who I can just go and just look, who will
yeah,
not judge me, who will just sit there, listen to me, and I can just vent and offload and leave
mm,
that stuff there and come away. And there's loads of therapists out there that you can do that with,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and you can tell them very clearly, look, I don't want anything which is very deep, very long term. I just need this support right now. This is what I'm looking for.
yeah. And I mean, I can't recommend therapy enough. For me, it is something I've turned to in my life. I just have always, we say this together quite often, Sharon, that,
Mm.
if you're looking after your heart, you're looking after your brain, you're looking after everything, but you don't think about looking after your mind,
Fine.
looking after your, and therapy, I think, is getting a better name
Oh,
than it
yes.
used to do.
Hmm.
It's being used in a much better way than it used to. But before, it used to be, gosh, oh, she's going to see therapy, she's going to,
Yeah.
and it was a real taboo, but now, really, again, like I say, I can't recommend it enough. I've used therapy throughout my life at
Mhm.
various stages, and actually different therapists as well.
Yes.
No, it's not been the same therapist. It's
Yeah.
been a different therapist
Hmm.
each time at different stages of my
Hmm.
life. but they have been invaluable in helping me to make really critically important decisions, which I don't think I could have made by myself. So again, it's like that thing where there's something wrong, but you don't know what's wrong, and you don't know how to deal with it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my divorce was one of them, where I just knew that there's something not right, something is not right at all.
Mm.
But would I ever have been brave enough to make that decision if I hadn't gone to a therapist who had who basically just let me speak, and then I was able to kind of think, okay, this is what I need to do because this is what's right, this is what's
Mm-hmm.
wrong. So
Mm-hmm.
I think therapists are vitally important, and I think
Mm.
yeah, if anybody listening sort of needs, as you said, to vent,
Mm.
I think it's absolutely crucial. Are you seeing much more kind of, we talked about South Asian community, but are you seeing a lot more people accessing therapy, for those purposes?
Oh yes, a lot more. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's
Yeah,
definitely been an increase in, especially the. I mean, yes, I see everyone, but I see a lot more. I mean, since I've been practicing for now 10 years, and from the time I started my practice to I've been coming to now, it's just been quite an influx of
yeah,
South Asians coming in, which is
yeah,
really good to see. I'm really pleased with that, and they
yeah.
just want to talk about, and they feel, I mean, yes. I mean, it's always taught like, oh, like menopause is a thing. Oh, don't talk about it. You don't talk
No,
about periods. You don't talk about menopause. You don't
no,
even like the whole childbirth thing.
no,
You
no.
don't
Yeah,
speak about it. You just like the child
no,
just comes and that's it. It's
yeah.
I don't know where this the stalk just comes in and gives the
And
child.
the baby's born. I mean,
It is
it's
there.
insane, but yeah,
But
still,
it's a
yeah,
lot more of this is spoken about. It's yeah,
it's good.
which is really I'm really
Yeah,
happy to see that. It's
yeah,
not like, oh
yeah.
my God, a therapist, something is definitely wrong with me. No, it's not that something is wrong with you.
It's just that you need somebody to speak
Something
to
to
who
speak
isn't necessarily connected or related to you in any
exactly.
way, who's going to be
Biased
able to
and
be completely objective. They've got no interest in which way it's going. I mean, as I said, I'm a complete advocate of it, and I think it's absolutely amazing.
mm,
Um, Sharon, it's so lovely talking to you. As always, I can keep talking to you for ages and ages and ages. And we've done so many talks together where I'm like completely fascinated by everything that you say. And I think what you've done today is really, really helpful. I think you've given some really good tips and advice for people who perhaps are watching people they love, people they're in a relationship with whether that be work or a more intimate relationship, a son or daughter or husband or wife, um, how to approach and kind of the steps to take and what to do. And I think you've also really, it's been so useful in you speaking about, um, if you are a woman going through it, what you can or what you could or should, or not should really, but could do if you wanted to seek help, and seek further support. I think, I mean, at the end of this program, I will ask you to share your details because, like I say, I only recommend people that I have worked with, and I've worked with you, and I couldn't recommend you enough, and that's why you're here, and it's wonderful to have you on here. But I think before we leave, we always ask our guests this wonderful question that I love, and we've had some really brilliant nuggets of information that we can take and use. But I would love it if you would be able to share with our audience, um, a habit or a ritual which you really cherish and you love, and it's something that's made a really big difference to you and your life. It's something that you practice, and you feel perhaps if other people tried it, they might benefit as well.
you see, what I practice is practice. What I practice is consistency.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it gets me into a routine. And we all know we have to meditate, we have to eat healthy, we have to have herbal teas and all that stuff. But the point is, do you keep up with it? And I think the thing to practice is practice.
I
Because
love
once
that,
you're
Shireen.
consistent, it becomes your lifestyle. It becomes a ritual.
I love that. I love that so much because actually that is a brilliant one because we've had, as you said, and quite rightly, these are important things as you've
Yeah,
said.
yeah,
But I absolutely love that practicing because actually, you can never be perfect, right? And
no,
B, if you don't put the practice in,
no.
exactly as you said, it is practice. It isn't that you wake up and you just think every day, yeah, I'm going to do this. I was just thinking that today. I'm like, this week I've really struggled with
Yeah.
with everything. And the
Mm-hmm.
couple of weeks before that, I didn't get any yoga in. It's been so bitty. Obviously, life has sort of happened, and things have happened that have meant I can't focus on that. And actually, this week it's like, oh, I really don't want to go. I don't want to go and get up and do my exercise. But actually, you're so right. It's like, keep practicing, keep going for it. And yeah, I love that. I think that's absolutely brilliant. What a brilliant
Mm-hmm.
nugget. Thank
I
you.
think I
It's
just
been
wanted to give
such a
a
pleasure.
message to anyone who's listening about menopause, and I just wanted
Yeah.
to just put it out there that don't look at menopause as something negative, because we tend to do that, because when we look at all the symptoms, we're like, oh my god, what's happening? You start, yes, there is a grieving process, there is the loss of something, right? But look at it as this golden opportunity to reinvent yourself, throw out your old wardrobe, create a new wardrobe, reinvent yourself, create a new you. Even like when, one thing we didn't talk about was sex life, because that
Yes.
it does get impacted. But find something new with your partner, get excitement into your life. Go and buy
Yes.
sex toys, I mean,
Yeah.
foreplay, date nights,
Yeah.
all these things are so important. So it's like having a new chapter, and you're writing that chapter yourself, because you're
Yeah.
at that age that you can actually do what you want to do with yourself
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
create yourself.
You're right. It is I think that should be I think we should do that as a podcast, because I think that's a very important
Mm.
podcast to have. So I think we should schedule that one in, because I do think, the thing is, I think for some women, it can be, gosh, don't ever want to think about sex again, for whatever reason that may be. But for others, it can be a complete reinvention. But also, in both situations, it's
Mm.
like, how do you reconnect with your partner in that way? What is it that's going on, and how can we do that? I think that's a
Mm.
definite whole
Yeah.
podcast. Will you come back again for a
Yes,
podcast on
I
that?
will, of course. My
I
favorite
would love to
topic.
talk about that. Sorry.
I think I said it's my favorite topic, sex
Oh
therapy.
yeah, no, and
Let's
I,
talk about
yeah, and I love it. I think it is mine too, and I think it's something that isn't talked about enough, by any means, by
it.
anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's absolutely crucial that
Mm-hmm.
we definitely have a conversation about this, and I would love to get a podcast in, and I'm sure our listeners would be very keen to listen on that. But for this one, and you're so right, be positive. It is really positive. There is so much positive. As I said, pretty much every woman that I've had on this podcast as a guest has is either going through perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause, and they're at almost their creative best. They've suddenly come out into their own.
Mm-hmm.
They're thriving, not just surviving, and
Mm-hmm.
they're doing amazingly well. Shireen, thank you so much. Before you go, please just let us know where people can find you, your Instagram, Facebook, and if they want to get in touch with you as well, please.
So my Instagram is at Flourish with Therapy. My webpage is www.shireennoor.com. So that's got all my details on my webpage. So if
Could you
you want
spell
to,
that, the website?
the website is Flourish,
Yeah, yeah,
FLOURISH therapy. So it's all one
and
word.
perfect. And your name,
And
the
Shireen
one
Noor
your
is SHIREENNOOR. So it's two N's.com.
perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
So,
Sharon, thank you so much for joining us. And we've got
you're
another
most welcome.
podcast
Thank
booked
you
in,
for
so I
having
like
me.
that.
As always, a very interesting and fun conversation with you, Meera.
Oh, thank you.